Everything. So 1 minute over. Let's get started. So a lot of tickets from Anna and Florian. Any special order, or we can ignore the work in progress and the rest?
The WIP you can ignore, I think, still.
Which one? Sorry.
The
I cannot hear you anymore.
it went crazy. The work in progress one, it's what we have seen this morning.
Yeah.
I think you can ignore it for now.
For context, this morning I discussed with the people here in the room about this specific topic, and I need to bring up this to the technical committee, this question, because if we want to support Python, container runtime, and Node.js, what should be the behavior? If I specify a function in TypeScript and a function in Python and a container, should all of three be part of a single Keptn task? Should we have the logic of only one of them to be defined and introduce a webhook, a validation webhook, to notify the user if it tries to configure multiple tasks providers, like Anna likes to call them? Or yeah, so I would bring this up to the technical committee. So at least we have a first set of tickets, so we can prepare the code base to support these new runtimes that we can provide. Anna, would you like to give a roundup of this specific issue?
Yes, so now we have two main parts that are involved, two controllers. This is the task definition controller and the task controller. The task definition controller has a specific logic which is typical for the JavaScript function. So this just needs to be slightly touched. But the task controller is something which at the same time has the logic for creating the job and the logic to decide how to fill in the container. And these two things should be separated in a way that the logic to create the container is then abstracted. And we have different one according to the different technology you want to use for runtime. And this is a bit of flimsy work because the two things are quite tied together, but it's nothing too complex, just a bit tiresome. And a few changes in the main controller logic have to be done, but mostly this is in the, if you click, Giovanni, the link, this would be the job utils and the function utils that has to be touched.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, tasks need to be updated, and integration tests should work exactly like before without any change.
Also component tests, I would assume. We have task and test definition.
True,
component
we
tests.
have a component test, yeah.
Then let's remove unit.
No, I think the unit test needs to be fixed, but the component test shouldn't be modified. But I'm not sure here, to be honest.
I haven't looked at it.
It's a
so
proper refactoring, only unit test needs to be adapted.
Yeah.
Are you feel confident to evaluate, or Anna, please join the board? I will share it in the chat. Also, you, Christian, if you feel confident, or you, Mag, if you feel confident to vote.
Yes, let me open that up. I lost stuff. Yeah.
There are two Annas, Anna backslashed and Anna.
I was already in, but for some reason you couldn't see me. So now I'm
No
there
problem.
twice. Ignore Anna without the backslash.
Okay. Then let's put an estimation. I'm fine with an M. Perfect. Then second ticket, this one from flow. This is for the webhook.
Exactly, yes. So I was browsing through the lifecycle toolkit operator code a little bit and to see how everything plays together, which components are generating which resources, and I found a couple of potential issues that might happen. Actually, I've also illustrated this. I'm going to send an Excalibur link into the chat, because this will make it a little bit clearer. Hopefully, if it's working. Yeah, exactly. So this is basically just illustrates how everything plays together. And this first ticket relates to the upper half, so to speak, with the first red circle. And the problem here is that recently we decided to limit the length of the name of the Keptn app to what is also allowed for Kubernetes object, meaning 253 characters. Yeah, and now we could have the problem that if we have an application name detected in the webhook that's, for example, greater than 253 characters and the Keptn workload, then we immediately will have a problem, because the Keptn workload will not be able to be created, because its name is a combination of the app name and the app controller. And right now we do have a check where we disallow the pod if we exceed certain limits for the workload controller, but this is not consistent anymore, because when creating the Keptn app directly via kubectl apply, for example, we do not have this restriction in place. So therefore, we should, or I think we can get rid of these very small naming restrictions in the pod webhook altogether, and just truncate the string for the name of the Keptn workload that we generate. But there's also actually a dependency that we need to resolve first. Yeah, I've fucked up the formatting here. So this should be hashtag 1425.
Sorry,
Should be 1425. Yeah. Exactly. And this is about the lookup for related Keptn workload instances for a Keptn app version, because in one of the phases of the Keptn app version, we are checking whether all the workloads that are part of it are being reconciled correctly or have been deployed successfully.
Because I don't want to discuss two tickets at once. Let's stop here. So this bottom line is to adapt the mutating webhook to provide the same truncation of the workload.
Exactly. So the pod mutating webhook, where we create the Keptn workload, and the Keptn workload controller, where we create the Keptn workload instance.
Okay, so
And this same logic we have in the scheduler now, right? Even though we're gonna get rid of it. For the workload instance, was it? Or did it change?
Good point. I think the scheduler will also need to be checked. I think there we also retrieve the workload instance
We
by
had
name,
something
right?
like that, I believe, yes.
Okay, then this we can discuss in this other ticket. This will be the second puzzle piece here.
So here it's just a workload controller.
Workload controller, yeah, and the webhook. So where we create those resources.
Yeah, perfect. So let's estimate just for this. Okay, Okay.
Mhm.
I'm underestimating today. I think everything is so trivial. Oops, but I'm fine with an S.
You're too smart.
I maybe misunderstanding the amount of work. But okie dokie. Now the second half of this.
Yeah, exactly. Because this is about adapting the Keptn add version controller and potentially the scheduler. That was a good point. Because if you go to the linked code here,
Let's fix it.
yeah. So when we check for the workload status of the individual workloads in the Keptn add version controller, we look them up by the name. This brings two problems with it. The first one is that it's not exactly the most performant solution, because this way in each reconciliation loop, we look up each of the individual workloads by getting it via a separate request. So if we have n workloads that are part of the Keptn app version, we retrieve that n times via the API. And then the second problem is if we do truncate the name, then we might run into problems when we try to access it by the name. And therefore, the solution I suggested here is to instead use a list request, which filters for the spec.add version and the spec.version properties of the workload instances. And this way, in each reconciliation loop, to get all of the workload instances that are part of the Keptn app version, we would then only need this one list request. And this then will also avoid problems with names being truncated. I also noted here that in this case, if we do want to filter on those properties, then we will need to also add index for those fields. But this is something that we have done a couple of times already, I think, for the workloads. So this should not be a big bump in complexity.
Basically, index addition is just adding to the manager creator or something like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So in the setup with manager function of the reconciler, you provide this indexer methods.
Okay. So are you ready to estimate, or do you have more questions for this? Oopsie. Let me, I wanted to copy the footage. Sorry. Now we have a bit of up and down. Andre, why an XS?
Yeah, it's basically substituting multiple get methods in a loop with one list method, plus the indexing, which is, I think, one function to retrieve resources, and adding one index and one unit test for a given function with a fake Kubernetes client. So I do not consider that as a
For unit test, I think you may have to change also the old one, because when you add an index, it could be you have to modify the client.
This-
Okay.
To
Or
me,
the mock part, but
Yeah, but
Yeah.
is as complex as the previous one.
I would argue
Mm.
that it's a little bit more complex, not by a lot, but
If the previous was an S,
I'm
then
also
maybe
thinking.
let's make the previous an XS otherwise.
I'm
the
also
saying-
thinking this is going to buy a lot of doc work, and the examples are going to have some major refactoring.
no, examples do not need any refactoring.
This will
Nothing
change
for the
nothing
user,
outside.
not much will change. Yeah.
Basic-
Documentation also nothing because it's transparent to the user, this truncation.
The limit on the name size can be removed. That's the only thing that will change if we have it written somewhere.
Great point.
Yeah, I'm not thinking massive amounts of writing. I'm thinking, but I think there's going to be a lot of little tweaks to the documentation and the examples maybe for this, and that's going to take time. But I may be overestimating.
So Flo, instead of an M, why this is more complex than the previous one?
Well, because the other ones was just adapting to very tiny functions. Here, it's affecting multiple components, so the Keptn app version controller and the scheduler, with the additional indexing methods, which all is not very complex in isolation, but for me it sums up to be one level higher than the previous issue.
Then Anna, you also for an S. Why an S?
I was undecided. I'm not 100% sure this would be an M, but it was definitely more complex than the previous S.
Then I don't think it's as double complex as the previous one. So we'll go with an S.
Yep, fine with me.
Perfect. And hello, Rakshit.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi there.
So this was the one that I forgot to remove it. Then we have one last ticket. The job name.
Exactly. Here we kind of have the other way around. So right now the Keptn task controller has a place where it checks whether the job that should execute this particular instance of the task is already created. And this one it does by sending a list request with the label selector, task name being equal to the name of the task. And here we also have some performance and potential functional problems, because performance, first of all, we're sending a list request and only ever expect one object to be returned. So therefore, here we could look it up by the name of the task, or by the job name, actually, because we do have that property within the status of the Keptn task. So that's the first thing. And then the second one, which is a bit more critical, is that since we are looking for a label called task name with the value set to the name of the task object, this can be a problem because the name of the task object can be 253 characters, but labels are limited to 63. And when I was playing around with the toolkit, I ran exactly into this problem where I generated a very, very long task name. And then somewhere during the reconciliation of the complete Keptn app, it got stuck because it couldn't create the job object, because the limitation of 63 characters was being exceeded, and therefore it couldn't progress. And that's why also we shouldn't add the task name and also not the app and workload names as labels, because those can all be potentially longer than those 63 characters. And if we do the lookup by status.jobName with a GET request, we actually don't use those labels anymore anywhere.
I don't know, managed by is a Kubernetes label, so we don't need to. So look up the job by name, and everything that we had in the labels, move it into annotation. Anything else that I missed from this, or use a
That
get
should
instead
be
of a
it,
list?
Of course.
I have a question which is not strictly related to the ticket.
Please, Anna.
We modified a lot of things recently about where should things run, and should the user have control of where the job runs in the cluster, like the namespace, for instance? I know this is not the
Job is created in the namespace where Keptn task definition is.
there.
So
The
it has
job-
control.
The job and the task are created in the same namespace where the application run. The task definition can be created in a
So only the
separate
task
namespace.
definition. Okay. Okay, then this doesn't matter.
I thought you were talking about pod extraction labels or architectural CPU, architectural decisions, those type of things. But so far, so good. I
Let's
would
leave
say.
it simple.
Yes. Then a complexity check. Oh, nice agreement. Okie dokie. There was only one issue that was wrong. Was this one? Yes. No, it's correct. Okay. This work in progress ticket, we need to get some more input from the technical committee, otherwise all good. Any further topics that you would like to discuss? You can also post links in the chat if you want to talk about specific things there. Then Rakshit, how is it going with the project?
I haven't actually started coding yet. Like I was currently learning more about Kubernetes operator. Like I wrote my first operator this past 2 to 3 days back. So
Oh,
I'm
nice.
still exploring the code right now, and then I'll start working on it.
Perfect. I would suggest to create small PRs, in particular at the beginning, so we can have faster feedback loop, and so you're not overwhelmed with our feedback, let's say. So try to create very
Sure.
small PRs, and whenever you have a PR, post it in the Keptn Slack or in the CNCF Slack and tag us so we can have a look.
Sure.
Also, if you have any question, feel free to ping us. Okay. Then, if we don't have any further topics to discuss. I would say thank you, everyone. It was a productive refinement session, and have a great rest of your day. See ya.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.